Nature rarely repeats itself. Evolution is a chaotic journey of trial and error, where most designs are discarded into the dustbin of history. But there is one weapon, one terrifying blueprint that the Earth refused to let go. For over 250 million years, across vastly different eras and entirely different families of life, a nightmare kept returning. Long, dagger-like teeth designed for a single purpose: to find the softest part of a throat and end a life in seconds. Most people know the name Smilodon. They believe the Saber-Toothed Tiger was a one-time freak of nature, a lonely icon of the Ice Age. But they couldn't be more wrong. Because before the first dinosaur ever took its breath, the saber-tooth was already there. After the dinosaurs vanished and the world turned cold, it returned again. From the reptilian terrors of the Permian to the bizarre pouched killers of South America and the heavy-duty false cats of the Miocene, the saber-tooth was a recurring curse. It was an elite club of killers that mastered the art of the precision strike. This isn't just about big teeth. This is about a 250-million-year-old war for survival. This is the story of the predators that even time couldn't truly kill. This is the Saber-Toothed Dynasty. The concept of a saber-tooth is often misunderstood as a single branch on the tree of life. But in reality, it is nature's most persistent obsession. Imagine a weapon so effective that evolution decided to invent it at least 5 separate times across hundreds of millions of years in creatures that weren't even related. This is what scientists call convergent evolution, when nature finds a solution so perfect for killing that it forces completely different animals to look almost identical. To understand the scale of this dynasty, we have to look past the fur and the fangs. While a modern lion or tiger uses a suffocation grip, clamping down on a throat for minutes until the prey grows tired, the saber-toothed predators operated like surgeons. They didn't have the strongest bite forces in history. In fact, many had weaker bites than a modern spotted hyena. Their secret was mechanical leverage. Their skulls were engineered to swing like heavy axes, using massive neck muscles to drive those dagger-like canines into the softest, most vital parts of a giant's neck. But why did they keep appearing? The answer lies in the prey. Whenever the Earth produced mega herbivores, creatures so massive that a standard bite couldn't reach their vitals, evolution responded by forging a saber-tooth. From the armored reptiles of the Permian to the 6-ton ground sloths of the Ice Age, these predators were the heavy ordnance division of the animal kingdom. They were specialists in a world of giants. As we begin our countdown from the most primitive experiments to the ultimate apex killers, we aren't just looking at different species, we are looking at different empires. Some were reptilian, some were marsupials carrying their young in pouches, and some were the false cats that dominated the Earth long before the first true lion ever roared. Prepare to enter a world where the rules of the hunt were different, a world where a single strike meant certain death, and where the long tooth was the ultimate badge of authority. These are the 5 distinct lineages that mastered the blade. This is the hierarchy of the Saber-Toothed Dynasty. Our journey begins with the pioneers of the feline silhouette, the Nimravids, often called the false saber-toothed cats. These predators dominated the landscape from the late Eocene to the late Miocene, roughly 40 to 7 million years ago. While they look strikingly similar to the cats we know today, looks can be deceiving. The Nimravids are a completely separate branch of the carnivore family tree. They were cats before the first true cat ever evolved. What makes the Nimravids so fascinating is that they were the first major experiment in the saber-toothed design within the mammal kingdom. If you looked at a Hoplophonus or a Dinictus, you would see a creature roughly the size of a leopard but built like a powerhouse. They had shorter, sturdier limbs, suggesting they weren't long-distance runners. Instead, they were the ultimate ambush specialists of the ancient woodlands. They would lie in wait, lunging from the shadows to grapple with prey using brute strength. The weaponry of the Nimravids was diverse. Some species had relatively short scimitar teeth, while others, like Eusmelus, developed terrifyingly long blades. To protect these precious daggers, many Nimravids evolved a bizarre anatomical feature, a chin flange. This was a bony extension of the lower jaw that acted like a scabbard, cradling the upper fangs when the mouth was closed. It was a clear sign that evolution was still refining the saber-toothed blueprint, figuring out how to keep such long teeth from snapping during a struggle. However, despite their terrifying appearance, their brain-to-body ratio was smaller than that of later saber-tooths. And their inner ear structure was more primitive, suggesting they lacked the razor-sharp senses and advanced social intelligence of the true cats that would follow. They were the version 1.0 of the saber-toothed dynasty. By the time the climate began to shift and the dense forests gave way to open grasslands, the Nimravids found themselves outmatched. They were built for a world that was disappearing, eventually losing their throne to newer, more efficient predators. They were the first to master the blade, paving the way for the even more specialized monsters that were yet to come. Now we enter the realm of the truly alien. If you thought the saber-tooth design was exclusive to the ancestors of cats, think again. Nature has a dark sense of irony, and 5 million years ago, in the isolated wilds of South America, it produced a nightmare that was more closely related to a koala than a lion. Here it is, the Sparassodonts. First, let's clear up the mystery. Despite the fangs, these were not cats. They weren't even felines. Sparassodonta belonged to a completely separate lineage of Metatherian mammals, the cousins of the marsupials. While the ancestors of lions and tigers were developing in the north, these pouched assassins were perfecting the art of the kill in the south. They are more closely related to modern-day opossums and kangaroos than to any predator stalking the savannas today. Imagine a predatory kangaroo that traded its hop for brute muscle and 6-inch daggers. The undisputed king of this nightmare family and the most terrifying species of the group is Thylacosmilus atrox. Thylacosmilus was a biological anomaly. It was the size of a jaguar, but built like a professional wrestler with massive sloping shoulders and thick forelimbs designed to pin prey to the dirt in an unbreakable grip. But the true horror lived in its mouth. Unlike every other predator on this list, Thylacosmilus possessed ever-growing sabers. These weren't just teeth, they were biological chisels that never stopped growing throughout its entire life, like the incisors of a giant, bloodthirsty rodent. These fangs were so long that their roots didn't stop at the jaw. They curved all the way back, passing over the eye sockets and anchoring deep into the top of the skull. To protect these massive blades, Thylacosmilus evolved the most extreme chin flanges in history. These bony sheaths hung down from its lower jaw like the scabbards of a medieval sword, acting as a permanent holster for its lethal weaponry. But here is where the science gets weird. Biomechanical studies show that Thylacosmilus had a bite force weaker than a modern domestic house cat. It couldn't crunch through bone. Instead, it was a precision executioner. It used its massive, specialized neck muscles to drive those teeth downward like a pair of hydraulic pistons. It didn't bite, it driven its blades into the soft tissue of the throat, ending the fight in a single surgical strike. Because its brain was significantly smaller than the placental predators emerging in the north, it lacked the complex social structures of the true cats. When the land bridge finally connected North and South America, the pouched sabers found themselves outcompeted by smarter and faster rivals. They were a fascinating what-if of evolution. A reminder that you can have the most terrifying blades in the world, but if you don't have the tactical intelligence to match your rivals, the blade eventually shatters. 260 million years ago, before the first dinosaur ever walked the earth, This is the Permian period, when the Earth is a world of harsh deserts and alien landscapes. It was here that nature forged the original blueprint for the saber-tooth. Welcome to the era of the Gorgonopsids. Forget everything you know about cats and mammals. The Gorgonopsids were members of a group called Therapsids. While they looked like massive furless dogs, they were actually Stem-Mammals, the bridge between the ancient reptiles of the past and the mammals of the future. They are our own distant cousins, close to us than to any lizard or crocodile. Yet they possessed a ferocity that feels entirely inhuman. They were the paleo-terrors, the first animals to ever walk with their legs positioned directly under their bodies, giving them a terrifying modern gait that allowed them to chase down prey with relentless speed. The deadly nightmare of this family, and the largest of them all, is the Russian titan, Inostrancevia. Inostrancevia was the size of a grizzly bear, weighing nearly half a ton of pure reptilian muscle. It was built for one thing: high-speed, high-impact assassination. While later saber-tooths were ambush hunters, Inostrancevia was a pursuit predator. It lived in a world dominated by massive armored herbivores called pariasaurs, creatures with skin like stone. To kill something that heavily protected a standard bite was useless. You needed a specialized tool. The skull of Inostrancevia was a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering. It could open its jaws to a staggering 90-degree angle, revealing 4-inch serrated sabers that weren't just for stabbing. They were designed to hook into the thick hides of its prey and tear through flesh and bone. Unlike the delicate fangs of later cats, the teeth of a Gorgonopsid were thick and rugged, built to endure the brutal struggles of the Permian Great Dying. In their time, there was no rival, no T-Rex, no lions, no competition. They were the first apex predators to ever rule a continent. They weren't just part of the food chain, they were the food chain. But despite their raw power, they were eventually wiped out by the greatest extinction event in Earth's history, the Great Dying, which killed 95% of all life. They were the pioneers of the blade, the first to prove that the saber-tooth was the ultimate weapon of an apex predator. Before the dinosaurs even had a name, Inostrancevia was already the king of the world. Next, we enter the era of specialized heavyweight predators. They were designed to take down prey much larger than themselves. This was the pinnacle of false saber-toothed evolution. Here it is, Barbarofelids. Often confused with true cats, these predators were actually a distinct family of carnivorans known as Barbarofelidae. While they sit on the cat-like branch of the evolutionary tree, the feliforms, but they are not true felines. Instead, they are more closely related to the Nimravids we saw earlier, but with a massive upgrade in lethality. They were the ultimate false cats, an independent lineage that took the saber-toothed blueprint and pushed it to its absolute physical limit during the Miocene, roughly 15 to 5 million years ago. The unchallenged heavyweight champion of this family, and one of the most terrifying predators to ever walk the earth, is Barbaroffelis fricki. If Smilodon was a rapier, Barbaroffelis was a battle axe. Roughly the size of a modern lion, but built with the bone density of a grizzly bear. This beast was a biological tank. It lacked the long, graceful limbs of a pursuit hunter. Instead, it possessed massive, shortened forelimbs anchored by colossal muscle attachments. Barbaroffelis didn't just catch its prey, it tackled it with enough force to shatter ribs, pinning massive herbivores to the ground with sheer unadulterated power. But the real nightmare was the skull. Barbaroffelis possessed some of the longest and most specialized teeth in the entire saber-toothed dynasty. Its fangs were incredibly thin and blade-like, serrated for maximum cutting efficiency. To accommodate these massive daggers, its skull evolved into a bizarre flattened shape, with a forehead that sloped back aggressively to provide more surface area for its massive neck muscles. Like the Thylacosmolus, Barbaroffelis featured prominent chin flanges to protect its blades, but its lower jaw was far more robust. designed to withstand the violent thrashing of prehistoric rhinoceroses and giant camels. Every inch of this animal was engineered for high-stakes hunting. It lived in a world where the prey was becoming larger and tougher, and it responded by becoming the most specialized big-game hunter of its time. They reached a level of specialization that was almost suicidal. They were so well adapted to hunting giants that when those giants began to go extinct due to changing climates, the Barbarofelids had no plan B. They were the ultimate masters of a vanishing world. They were the last and greatest of the false cats, a terrifying reminder that evolution can produce a near-perfect killing machine that looks and acts like a cat but belongs to a dark, forgotten lineage all its own. Before the true kings took the throne, Barbarofelids was the monster that haunted the dreams of the Miocene giants. And the last group, the absolute pinnacle of the saber-toothed design and the most famous predator in human history, the Machairodontids. While the other groups we've discussed were experiments or false cats, the Machairodontids were the true cats. They belonged to the family Felidae, making them the direct brothers and sisters of the modern lion, tiger, and leopard. They share a common ancestor with every feline purring in a home or stalking the savanna today. But while modern cats evolved to be versatile jack-of-all-trades, the Machairodontids doubled down on the blade, becoming the most efficient specialized killers the mammalian world has ever seen. So why is this group, and specifically Smilodon, the one that captured the world's imagination? Why do we say Saber-Toothed Tiger and immediately think of them, rather than Inostrancevia or the armored Barbarofelids? The answer is timing and proximity. The Machairodontids didn't just rule a distant alien past, they ruled the Pleistocene, the era of the Ice Age. They shared the world with our own ancestors. Early humans didn't just find their fossils, they saw them in the flesh. They heard their roars echoing across the mammoth steppes of Europe and the grasslands of America. They are etched into our collective DNA as the ultimate prehistoric nightmare. The unbeatable king of this family and the most terrifying species to ever walk the earth is Smilodon populator. Found in South America, Smilodon populator was a biological juggernaut. It was nearly double the weight of a modern Siberian tiger, tipping the scales at an incredible 400 kilograms or nearly 900 pounds. It wasn't built for a long-distance chase, it was built for a high-intensity wrestling match. Its front legs were massive, thicker, and more muscular than any cat alive today, designed to pin down multi-ton ground sloths and bison, with a grip that was impossible to break. But the crown jewels of the Machairodontids were their teeth. Unlike the thick, rugged teeth of the earlier Gorgonopsids, the sabers of Smilodon were refined, thin, and serrated like steak knives. They were precision instruments. Once the prey was pinned, Smilodon didn't waste time with a clumsy suffocation bite. It used its specialized neck muscles to drive those 11-inch blades into the soft tissue of the throat, severing the carotid artery and windpipe in a single surgical strike. What puts the Machairodontids at the top of the list compared to other saber-toothed groups is their social intelligence. Evidence from the La Brea tar pits suggests that Smilodon may have lived and hunted in prides much like modern lions. This was a super predator, a creature that combined the brute strength of a bear, the specialized weaponry of a master assassin, and the tactical brilliance of a pack hunter. They were the ultimate iteration of the saber-tooth blueprint. For millions of years, nature tried to create the perfect long-toothed killer, and in the Machairodontids, it finally succeeded. They were the true kings of the Ice Age, the final and most lethal chapter in a 250-million-year-old dynasty. When the last Smilodon vanished 10,000 years ago, it didn't just mark the end of a species, it marked the end of an era where the blade ruled the world. So, there you have it. 5 completely different families of life that all arrived at the exact same conclusion. If you want to take down a giant, you're going to need a bigger set of teeth. From the Gorgonopsids of the Permian to the heavy-hitting Smilodon of the Ice Age, the saber-toothed design wasn't just a one-off fluke. It was a recurring solution to a recurring problem. Every time the Earth produced massive, thick-skinned herbivores, evolution hit the saber-tooth button to keep the ecosystem in check. But as we've seen, being a specialist is a double-edged sword. These predators were essentially the supercars of the animal kingdom, incredibly fast, powerful, and specialized for one specific job. But the moment the environment changed, or their favorite prey started disappearing, they couldn't just switch gears like modern cats did. While a leopard can pivot from hunting antelope to catching fish or even baboons, a Smilodon was locked into a high-stakes game of hunting titans. When the titans died out, the saber-tooths went with them. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the saber-toothed dynasty, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Don't forget to share the video too. We've got more prehistoric breakdowns coming your way soon. Until next time, stay curious.